Hello, thank you for joining us and welcome to another edition of Health Matters. My name is Sherri Gallant and I'm with Alberta Health Services. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about all things safety. We're going to talk about car seat safety, Halloween safety, some important aspects of that, and also what an important week that's coming up is National Teen Driver Safety Week. So we'll dive right in. I'd like to introduce to you Chloe Trautman. Chloe is a health promotion facilitator with Alberta Health Services and an expert in car seats and all things car seat. Welcome, Chloe.
Thanks, Sherri.
Can you tell us why car seat and child car seat safety is such an important topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So, car crashes are a leading cause of death and injury to children in Canada. So, when we are utilizing our car seats and protecting our children, we can severely decrease those risks of injury and death. So, that's what we want to strive for is keeping our children safe. So, we know that they can be overwhelming and confusing. So, I'm hoping that through this talk, I can help provide a bit of clarity and guidance for some parents, as well as letting them know what resources are available to access. There can be a lot of misinformation out there, so it's important to follow best practices from trusted professionals.
What are the guidelines in Alberta?
So first of all, car seats on the market are all a little bit different. So it's important that parents and caregivers follow the specifics of their car seat as stated by their manufacturer in their guidelines in the manual. So always it's best to follow the car seat user manual specific to that car seat for the guidelines around the maximum weight and height limits of the particular car seat and to follow what the vehicle manual for installation instructions suggests. So depending on the stage of where the child is at for their age, height, and weight, the guidelines in Alberta for a rear facing seat, it's best to keep our children rear facing until they're at least the age of 2 or until they reach the maximum height or weight of that specific car seat's recommendation as stated by the manufacturer. And rear facing is really important because it best protects children's head, neck, and spine if they're involved in a collision. So those really sensitive areas. So even if they surpass the age of 2 and they're still comfortable rear facing, it's a good idea to just keep them that way since it best protects those sensitive areas. And you can also get car seats that have a higher weight and height limit so that we can keep children rear facing for longer. And then moving into a forward facing stage, so a child would have to be at least 2 years or they reach the maximum height or weight as stated by the manufacturer again. So a child should stay forward facing until they reach that maximum height or weight. That's usually the guidelines that somebody should focus on. And always remembering that the top tether strap for a forward facing seat is required, and then following into a booster seat stage, a child could be in a booster seat when they've reached the maximum height or weight limit of the forward facing seat. And a child is safest in a booster seat until they reach that maximum weight or height limit. And then seatbelts, there are a few directions that we have to follow for when a child could move into a seatbelt stage. A child needs to be at least 4'9". Their knees need to bend comfortably at the edge of the seat when sitting all the way back. The lap belt stays low and snug across the hip bones, and the shoulder belt crosses the chest between the child's neck and shoulders. And they can do that whole trip without slouching in those positions. So until they reach those 5 steps, continue to use a booster seat on every ride. So there are many stages of the use of car seats, and it's always just best to follow what your car seat manual states.
In the cold winter months, are there special recommendations for how a person should dress their child when they're in a car seat?
Yeah, it's really important that we really start thinking about those cold winter months now, especially it's getting a bit chillier now even. So we advise parents and caregivers to not dress their children in bulky snowsuits when they're in their car seats. And the reason is because thick or puffy winter jackets prevent car seat straps from sitting securely against the child's chest. So even if the car seat straps are secured over a bulky jacket in a collision, the force and impact can cause the jacket to decompress and the straps to become loose, which we don't want. And it's best to dress children in like fall weather clothing. So if they're a bit younger, wearing an undershirt, a toque or a hat, and a fleece sleeper or some other combination depending on the child's age. So once your child is secured in the seat and the straps are secured, you can place a blanket over top of them. Otherwise, thinner, less bulky snowsuits are acceptable alternatives to things like cuddle bags or sleeping bags for car seats. However, the straps must be secured tightly, not just resting on top of the clothing. So those are really important pieces to consider as the weather starts to change.
Can or should a person use any of the aftermarket products that are available?
So it's a great question. And many of the products that you see lining store shelves or through online websites can look appealing and they can add that you add to the purchase of a car seat. They usually have good intentions. They usually are for entertainment purposes or they can be warm and cozy. So not malicious in any way, but since they were not crash tested with the car seats, they could contribute to injury in a collision or if you're involved in a sudden stop, even. So, part of my job is to bring awareness and reduce injury and fatality rates in our children for something that could be prevented. So, those aftermarket products are not recommended for those reasons. So an example of these aftermarket products are like bunting bags, seatbelt adjusters, attachable plastic trays or mirrors, harness strap covers or head support pads that go behind the child's head. Um, and Many of these car seat providers now, or manufacturers, are trying to stay ahead of these products and include them with the purchase of the car seat. So you'll see a lot of car seats now that come with, for example, a harness strap cover or inserts and cushions for the car seat. So this prevents parents from purchasing anything additional. And since they were crash tested with the seat, they are safe to use. And always, it's a good idea to just check with Transport Canada is a good resource, and they list any aftermarket products that aren't recommended and a little bit of a longer explanation as to why. So that would be a good resource for parents to reach out to if they have questions on what is safe and what isn't.
In that same vein, can you suggest any other resources that are available for parents or caregivers related to car seat safety?
Yeah, absolutely. So, firstly, many of our health units in bigger centers across southern Alberta in Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, and Brooks have car seat technicians that have training to provide inspections and installations of car seats. These are usually done through appointments, and this is a free service for parents or caregivers. So they can call their local health center to find out more and who that contact would be. And there are all the car seat guidelines that I discussed briefly earlier. They are all online as well. And a lot of them are called yes tests. And so you can find those resources as well as others like tips for purchasing a car seat, keeping your child content in the car seat, among other recommendations at myhealth.alberta.ca. And there are also helpful videos on the AHS channel on YouTube and some good resources from the IWK Health Center in Nova Scotia. And I'll provide that link on the screen as well. And then Transport Canada is also a great website that lists any information related to car seat safety and any potential recalls with car seats. So I would suggest parents going there as well. But yeah, definitely reach out to any of your local health centers and just see if there's a technician in your area that can answer questions or provide that one-on-one appointment for installations and inspections.
Thanks so much, Chloe. I mean, it seems like a very simple thing to just strap a little person into a car seat, but there are so many little things that I just recently learned about the winter clothing um, situation. So it really pays for parents to do their homework. And thanks for bringing all those resources to us. It's really appreciated.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Sherri.
Thank you. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. Lisa Doyle is a health promotion facilitator with Alberta Health Services, and she's going to bring us some safety tips for Halloween, which is coming up. And nothing is more important than our little ones and maybe some of our little bit bigger ones going out and having a good time, but doing so safely. Welcome, Lisa. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, Halloween is a very exciting time for children, and what with all the excitement about candy and costumes, it might be pretty easy to sort of put safety on the back burner and not really give it much thought. So, what are some simple tips to help keep children safe?
Great question, and such an important reminder for everyone, as it is really easy to get caught up in that excitement and forget those basic safety steps to staying safe. So, one important consideration is visibility. So, for example, we want to look for costumes that are bright in color, or you can add things like reflective tape, reflective decals. You may also consider things like glow sticks, reflective wristbands, or even a flashlight to help kids be more visible to drivers. And with costumes, you also want to think about avoiding anything that could pose as a tripping hazard. So stick with items that are no longer than ankle length. And you also want to think about your child's ability to see. So Parachute Canada does recommend non-toxic face paint over masks, as masks can reduce that peripheral vision, making it more challenging for children to check and see oncoming traffic before crossing the street. And another important reminder is to ensure that you have an adult accompanying young children, as they may not have those developmental skills needed to cross the street by themselves.
Very good. We hear an awful lot from police and others around this time of year for motorists to watch out for little trick-or-treaters and for drivers to be careful. But are there messages that we could be giving to the little ones themselves about traffic safety?
Yeah, absolutely. So parents can teach their children to, stop at the curb, look both ways, look left, right, left again, and to always listen for oncoming traffic, and also ensure that children are aware they need to wait until the way is clear. So all vehicles at the crosswalk or intersection have come to a full stop before proceeding. And we also just want to remind everyone where it is safe to cross. So, for example, always crossing at that crosswalk. If there's not a crosswalk, a street corner or intersection, and just reminding children that it is not safe to cross between parked cars or other objects. And of course, we want to remind children to remain on the sidewalk or path when they're out trick or treating. And if your community does lack sidewalks in certain areas, then adults should be accompanying children regardless of their age, and also bringing a flashlight, as it can be dangerous to walk beside the road during the evening. And lastly, parents can also be a role model for their children and ensuring that they're practicing safe pedestrian and crossing practices.
Perfect. Let's put the onus again back then on the drivers. What should motorists be doing to help keep everyone safe on the road on this special day?
Yeah, so drivers, of course, should be extra cautious as there are going to be more children on the streets and to drive slower, particularly in those residential areas where there are going to be children out trick or treating. And an important reminder to reduce distractions, ensure cell phone is put away, avoid loud music, or just anything that can distract you from the road. And an interesting fact is that distracted driving is the leading cause of collisions in Alberta. So there is no text, no phone call, or other distraction that is worth risking your life or the lives of other road users around you. And as a driver, we also want to be watching for children. So, with that excitement again, those basic pedestrian rules may be forgotten and they could be crossing at, perhaps an unsafe point. So, we definitely want to be on the lookout. And if children are wearing masks, it could reduce their visibility to see oncoming traffic. So, just being extra cautious as a driver out on Halloween and also remembering to be on the lookout when entering or exiting those driveways too.
Absolutely. Do you have any last tips for trick-or-treaters this Halloween, Lisa?
Yeah, so just remembering to have a chat with your children to stay away from houses that are not well lit and to talk about the importance of course, not accepting rides from strangers or entering anyone's home and just staying on that porch area. And also important, I know it can be challenging to wait until children are home to have their candy inspected by an adult or guardian before eating anything. And of course, if anything looks like it's been tampered with, then disposing of those items immediately. And for older children who might be out trick or treating with friends, discussing their route with their parents or guardian ahead of time and contacting them if they anticipate that they're going to be out later than they originally let them know. So, those are just some simple tips for Halloween. And if parents are looking for more information, they can visit Parachute Canada and Alberta Health Services for more Halloween safety tips.
Fabulous resources. We want everybody to go on, have a good time, but to come home safely. So thank you very much, Lisa. We really appreciate your expertise.
Thanks for having me.
Stay with us. We will be right back, and we're going to talk about National Teen Drivers Safety Week. And we're back. National Teen Drivers Safety Week is coming up later this month, and Brandee Brown is joining us. Brandee is a health promotion facilitator with Alberta Health Services. Welcome, Brandee. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Sherri.
Let's start at the beginning. What is National Teen Driver Safety Week?
So, National Teen Driver Safety Week is an annual campaign put on by Parachute, which is Canada's national charity dedicated to injury prevention. And it's supported by numerous community partners, including the Injury Prevention Centre, Alberta Health Services, the Alberta Motor Association, and the cities of Edmonton and Calgary, just to name a few. And it is designed to build awareness of teen driver safety issues and to encourage community and youth involvement as part of the solution. And this year, the campaign runs from October 16th to 22nd, and it has the theme of Driving Takes 100.
Okay, driving takes 100. What exactly does that mean?
So, simply put, it means driving takes 100% of our concentration and attention. We know that driving is a highly complex task. It involves many different skills and body systems working together. We incorporate visual, cognitive, physical, and perception skills. And when there is something like a distraction, there's an immense impact on our body's ability to perform. Our performance is affected because our brains can only focus on one demanding task at a time, and doing other things while driving, like texting or making phone calls, checking our social media, adjusting in car displays, eating, fixing our hair and makeup, all increase our chances of a crash. Activities like these take our eyes off the road and our focus away from driving. In fact, drivers who are texting have their eyes off the road for an average of 4.6 seconds. And while that may not seem like much, it's like driving the entire length of a city block blind.
Wow. Wow. Well, what does the research show in terms of the increased chance of a crash and distracted driving?
So the research does show that road crashes are the third leading cause of death among young people in Canada, and that young people in Canada are killed in crashes at a higher rate than any other age group under 75 years old. In 2017, 25% of the motor vehicle related deaths in Canada involved distracted drivers, which is a pretty staggering statistic considering these deaths and injuries are preventable. It's also been shown that texting while driving is 2 to 5 times more risky than driving drunk. And drivers who text while are driving are 23 times more likely to be involved in a crash. So simply put the phone down, don't drive distracted.
Yeah, no kidding. So far, we've talked about distracted driving, but does Teen Driving Safety Week aim to identify any other safe driving topics?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, National Teen Driver Safety Week is focused primarily on distracted driving, but we are also raising awareness around speeding, drug impaired, alcohol impaired, aggressive driving, and rail safety, all of which are important to consider when we think about the theme Driving Takes 100. So a few other important pieces I want to highlight are just to put the phone down, don't drive distracted. As we mentioned before, drivers who text while driving are up to 6 times more likely to be involved in a crash. And our phones aren't the only thing in our cars that can be distracting. We have our in-car touch screens. We have all the features in our fancy new cars now. We eat on the go, we have passengers, and we take our pets with us, all are distractions. So try and avoid those distractions. Higher speeds equal higher risk, so stop speeding. Speeding is a factor in 1/3 of teen driving deaths in Canada. We know that speed limits are in place for a reason and need to match current road and weather conditions. Speeding is not just risky, it is also illegal and can result in an individual paying a fine, facing criminal charges, losing your license, or even going to jail. Don't drive high. Cannabis affects your balance, coordination, motor skills, attention, judgment, reaction time, and decision making. So don't risk your life or the lives of others by driving high. If you drink, don't drive. I think it's safe to say we've all heard this line, don't drink and drive, or some variation of it. But as I mentioned earlier, motor vehicle collisions are the third leading cause of death among those 16 to 25 years old, and alcohol is a factor in nearly half of those collisions. So again, don't risk your life or the lives of others by driving impaired. And then finally, stay off railway tracks and be rail smart. Because of their size, trains do appear to be much further away and maybe traveling a little slower than their actual speed. But don't be fooled when you see one approaching. Due to their size and speed, the average train actually needs up to 2 kilometers to stop. So follow the signs at rail crossings and stay off the tracks, off tunnels, bridges designed for trains only.
Okay. What are some tips or steps that young drivers should be aware of?
So during National Teen Driving Safety Week, we are encouraging young drivers to take steps to avoid distracted driving. So as we've kind of touched already, firstly, focus on driving, keep your eyes on the road. Second, keep your phone out of reach and enable your phone's do not disturb feature. If you need to make a call or a text, find a safe place to pull over and park your vehicle. Adjust any of your vehicle features before you start driving. Make sure you have your music selected, your seat and mirrors are adjusted. If you're using GPS, you have that all ready to go. Avoid eating and drinking. And speak up. If you're riding in a vehicle with a driver who's distracted, let them know and ask them to focus on driving. And then most importantly, parents and experienced drivers need to set a good example. It is National Teen Driver Safety Week, but I think everybody can take a few points and learn.
I know I learned a lot about driving just from watching my dad, and most of it was good, but setting that good example is something to really be mindful of. I used to tell my kids to throw their phones in the back seat before they get behind the wheel. Is that a rule that can work?
That's a good one. Maybe I should try that one too.
Well, this is all really good stuff for us to be mindful of, and thank you very much for bringing us these resources today.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again for joining us for another edition of Health Matters. I'd like to thank our guests today, Lisa and Chloe and Brandee, and thanks to them for helping us to put safety first and be mindful of the things that can keep us coming home to our loved ones. As always, if you'd like more information about Alberta Health Services and its services and programs, please go to our website, ahs.ca. And if you'd like to see this or any past editions of Health Matters, you can go to our YouTube channel and you can find them all there. Thanks again. Stay safe, stay well.